you're feeling compelled to make your video because you had an experience that was so impactful to you, you want to share it with the world. No one cares about the footage without a story. They want to know why that moment was special to you. Your job as a creator is to share why that was special effectively with your audience. I get asked frequently for advice on how to make paramotor videos. I've been flying for almost 6 years and filming and documenting that for the past 3.5. I'm not the biggest expert in the world, but I have some experience. And a lot of people are asking these questions not because they want to make a video to go viral or something like that. They just want to share an experience that was impactful with them, with the world. So today I want to give you my thoughts on how to do that, in my opinion, which could be wrong. I haven't flown a paramotor in like 3 months for more than maybe like a couple laps around the patch. Take the Viper XC, take a MacFly with a motor on it this time, and go that way. Talk to the camera. Okay, Dave, you've filmed a lot of videos with me now. You've been here for a lot of it. Give me your best advice.
So the best videos in my experience are the ones where we're actually having fun and we happen to video it. So I guess the best thing you could do is just go out there and have fun, and then have your video rigs really dialed so you don't have to think about what you're doing with the cameras, and just do your thing and then just happen to video it, and it tends to work out. People tend to pick up on when other people are having a good time.
Yeah! There's a dog! Yo, your dog!
The other thing would be to just have like a general plan as far as what you want to do, almost like a shot list, but then be open to being flexible to your shots, because sometimes something just works, and don't be so rigid with your plan, and then express that fun through the editing, and then people tend to really enjoy that kind of content.
In case you are wondering about filming gear, you're currently watching me on a Sony FX30 with a 10 to 18mm lens. I film everything in the air on a GoPro 10 on my helmet with a media mod, and that plugs into the microphone. Today, for the first time ever, we're running an ND filter on the GoPro. An ND filter basically lowers the shutter speed of each frame of the video, so you get natural motion blur in your footage. It looks a lot more natural. I also film in the air with a Insta360 3X. If you had to pick 2 cameras, I would recommend some sort of action camera that's modern, whatever Insta, DJI, or GoPro is offering at the time, as your helmet camera that allows for an audio input, and the Insta360, which is easily the most versatile in the air camera I own. You don't need a FX30. Like, you could do this on a phone and it'd be fine. Research. Making paramotor videos for the past, oh gosh, almost 4 years, 3.5 years, and I've learned a lot in that process, and I get asked frequently now for advice on something somebody's made or on how to make something for themselves, and I want to just share a few little nuggets of information that really helped me. Starting off, broad picture, absolutely the biggest, most important thing is your story. Paramotoring is cool. Doing a little musical edit of paramotoring is fun to share with your paramotoring friends, but if you want to share it with a broader audience, you want more people to see it, you need to share how you felt. The harsh reality of making paramotor videos is like, no one cares about your footage. No one cares. You could have the coolest clip, or you could have done the coolest thing, but that's only ever going to appeal to people who already know what's going on. What people care about is how you felt in that moment and why it was special to you. And that is what you're trying to convey in your paramotor video.
So exciting news at Backcountry PPG. Hey, this is Judson, and I am teaching a number of beginner, advanced, and adventure paramotor training tours with Backcountry PPG this summer. If you're watching this and dreaming of flying, then enroll in one of our beginner paramotor training courses. Our next availability is July 20th through the 29th and August 10th through the 19th. These classes fill up fast, so act on your dream now. If you're already a paramotor pilot and want to take your flying to the next level, join me for one of our progression trainings. The next availability is June 13th through the 16th and August 1 through 4. 2024. And finally, my friend Mo and I have combined forces to bring to you the guided adventure tour in Utah. We'll be flying and camping at 4 epic destinations in Utah while trying to give you as much instruction as possible. Our July tour is already full, but there is still space in our October 1 through 6 and our October 15th through 20th trip. Now back to the video.
Instead of thinking, oh, I did this really cool thing, I'm just gonna put some music on it and fire it off the internet, sit in front of a camera or talk about in person while you're doing it like I am right now, why that particular moment is special to you and why it was really impactful. You need a story, and the goal of a awesome paramotor video is to convey why that moment was special. To go along with that, for most people, paramotors are a quick novelty they see on the internet that's very fleeting. The really awesome paramotor videos throughout time, I Love Tucker's Flying to Places series, combine something unique and interesting, paramotoring, with something that people can relate to, that's familiar, like going to McDonald's. This creates an endpoint for your viewers. I'm not saying go copy the McDonald's video. So many people have done it. I've done it, except I did it with Tucker. Figure out your angle. So that's the absolute biggest piece of advice. Broadly speaking, have a story. When we talk about a story, I think it's important to, in the first little bit of your video and in your thumbnail and in your title, explain to your viewer what's gonna happen. Your story arc needs to be something like, this is what we're gonna do, this is how I'm doing it, and this is me doing the thing I said I was gonna do. Got a little power line hazard, gotta get over the power lines. Pro tip number 2, don't record at full throttle if you're doing voiceover. It's just really hard on the whole system. It's hard to hear what's going on and everything. Just don't do it. Now, a lot of people are doing short form content now, and that's something I've done and had success with. A lot of people are just gonna go through Instagram, find the trending audio, whatever's super popular right now, fire off a good clip of them flying, landing, taking off, whatever. And the reality is you may or may not get a bunch of views from that. And even if you do get a bunch of views, what I find is that those views are driven more from the fact that that audio is just trending and anything with that audio is gonna gain more views than people actually being interested in what you're doing. With short form, I like to follow the same exact formula, just on a shorter thing. This is who I am, this is what I'm gonna do. You've personalized yourself, told people what you're gonna do. Then you spend 15, 20, 30 seconds showing them the process of doing it, and then in the end, giving them the gratifier of actually doing that thing. You want a hook and a gratifier. It basically follows the hero's journey that any good TV show, movie, anything like that follows. Alright, now let's talk about your actual video, like going out to film it. Here are a few tips. Paramotoring is alienating to people who don't know what's going on. You're watching it on this 360 camera, you're doing something weird. I think it's really important to make yourself as personable as possible. What I mean by that is talking to the camera before you go into the air, being like, hi, this is me, this is who I am, aside from the paramotor. When I fly, a lot of people fly with face coverings. I do. I fly with goggles most of the time when I'm flying solo. I choose to not do that for a video like this, for the simple fact that you can see my face, and when you can see somebody's face, you can see how they're expressing themselves. It's more relatable. Ugh, it's bumpy over here. You want your audience to be able to connect with you on a personal level. Any story that people connect to on a broad scale isn't about the activity that they're doing. It's a person story. It's a triumph of man or woman through the activity. Free Solo, the movie about Alex Honnold soloing Yosemite. Yeah, it's about climbing and him doing this crazy feat of climbing this mountain, but most of that movie is, all of that movie is about the struggles that Alex went through as a person and the triumph of a person, not about the climbing. Think about that when you're making your videos. So those are kind of my broad, overarching themes for making stuff before you even start recording. I would say think about why what you're doing is special to you and why you feel obligated to document it and share it with people. And that's your reason for doing it. I like to do something that's relatable and familiar to a broader audience and demystify, if you can, what the heck you're doing. So I generally talk about what I'm doing in the air. Right now we're in turbulence. That's what the heck is going on. I was gonna go over that mountain. Okay, now let's get into the nitty-gritty of filming things. Let's just talk about gear for a second. I film everything on the ground and sometimes in the air with a Sony FX30. It's a cinema camera and it is complete overkill for most projects. I just am a camera nerd and love filming on it. I think that composition is way more valuable than filming it in 10-bit S-Log3 or whatever. The recipe for a paramotor video, I think, is before you go fly, get in front of a camera, introduce yourself, and tell people what you're gonna do. So they build a connection with you that's separate from paramotoring. They're like, that's a dude, and this is what he's about to go do. I would highly encourage you to not handhold your footage. This is something I've done in the past and regretted over and over and over again. Every single clip you watch on the internet, 99% of it is handheld footage, which is kind of shaky and moves all around. It can be stable, but generally speaking, it's just like darting. It's just amateur-y. Just the simple act of putting your camera on a static point creates stability in your video. I think it almost feels like at this point, because we consume so much shaky content, just watching somebody talk with the camera not moving is like this, oh, okay, I can relax now. Because don't worry, you're about to bombard them with 5 to 10 minutes of moving video the whole time. Something I also haven't done in the past as much as I wanted to was film B-roll. And what I mean by B-roll is basically any clip that's not you talking that establishes where you are and what you're doing. So a clip of the windsock, a clip of like the sign at the airport, a clip of your friend taking off, like just stuff to establish it. If you're talking and you're making a point about a wing or a piece of equipment or a location, you can always pop that up on the screen. B-roll really adds to a video and it gives you options, especially in those moments where you're like, well, I went from talking and now I want to go from talking to fly and I need some kind of endpoint for that. Use your B-roll. Don't be afraid. Now let's talk about the actual in-flight video. If I had to choose one singular camera for filming paramotoring, it would be the Insta360 because it has easily the most versatility. The footage is great for Instagram, YouTube. It also, Insta in particular, has a feature called Deep Track in their desktop app, and I think the phone app, where you draw a box around you as the pilot, and it will just track you, and you don't have to worry about keyframing and making sure you're in frame the whole flight. It does it for you, which is wonderful. If you're gonna vlog, if you're gonna do this, there's 3 tenets. There's 3 cardinal rules, in my opinion. Opinion number 1, the helmet camera perspective is boring. You know why it's boring. I told you before, you can't see my face. Watching this video and me just talking doesn't let you associate with that person. I would rather watch a video from only the selfie stick and you voice over it than watch you talking over the helmet camera footage. I only really use the helmet camera footage as a cutaway if I'm like, oh, look at that. And you can also, when you run 2 cameras, hide cuts or make cuts feel a little bit more seamless by switching to the other camera, or you can use it to emphasize a point. When you start recording with 2 cameras, I would highly recommend doing some sort of sync, a clap sync works, I like doing this with my fingers. It's really easy to sync up those two perspectives on the camera, and then you're good for the whole timeline. That's tenet 1. Make sure people can see your face. Tenet number 2, whenever possible, fly towards the sun when you're talking or have the sun somewhere in front of you. The dynamic range of a 360 camera is not great, and even if it was like my FX30, I would still rather look at footage that wasn't backlit. Think about your lighting and think about your composition, especially if you're saying something important. If like, this is the most important thing I want to talk about right now, I gotta get this out in my mind. We're gonna be right into the sun and you can see me and I look great. This field is full of purple flowers and it's really magical. Cardinal rule number 3, arguably more important than the first 2, good audio is more valuable than good video. I would rather watch shaky, unstabilized GoPro 4 footage with audio that sounds nice and clear and not like a walkie-talkie than super stable video that's color graded to perfection with audio that sounds like it was filmed through a tin can. I don't have a perfect solution for this. I found something that works. I can't replace what I have that works because it's discontinued, and in the near future I'm gonna have to figure out a way to do this in a different way. And I would look into a wireless lav mic like the DJI Go mics and finding a way to mount that on your boom right here and then protecting that with some sort of wind resistant thing, like a fuzzy thing that blocks the noise, that blocks the wind noise. Your goal when you're filming paramotor audio is to create as much separation between the noise of the motor and your voice, while also running a microphone that's not gonna peak in this really loud environment and crackle. I've used lav mics in the past and they do work. That would be something to look into. The other tip for good audio is if you edit in DaVinci Resolve, it has a feature called voice isolation. It uses AI to separate people talking from background noise, and it works like magic. I personally run it between about 9 and 15. The default setting is 100, and you don't want that because then it's trying to block out all of the noise and it sounds like a robot. You just want to take that motor noise and turn it down like 50%. So now you've gone out, you've filmed yourself telling people what you're gonna do, and now you're doing your thing, and you've filmed yourself doing your thing, and now you landed, and you have all your footage, and now it's time to edit. How fun. Okay, a couple tips for editing. Number 1 is just stay organized. Put every clip from every camera in a different folder and label them what they are. My file structure on my hard drives is a date and what I did, something memorable from that, either the location or what happened. Whatever you could write that you look at and just go, oh yeah, that was that day. And then I'll create folders in that folder for the helmet camera, the ground camera, the 360 camera, music I want to use in the video, and an export folder. The first thing I do when I do a video like this is I just take everything in chronological order and put it in the timeline. And then I will just go through and cut that with no music, cut out all the fluff, and I'll run through it twice or 3 times. I realize this, you're not as interesting as you think you are. A lot of people don't want to hear you talk for a while. I like to just make sure there's no points in that video where I would hit the double tap button and skip. Once you have that, I like to go through and then cut out the parts of the 360 footage that I don't want, where I want to cut to the helmet camera. I usually in the timeline have the GoPro footage below the 360 footage, delete the audio from the 360 footage, and then I'll cut out the chunks of the 360 footage that I don't want, because I'm going to use a lot more of the 360 footage than I am the GoPro footage. Then, if you want to use music in your video, I would strongly encourage you to just use whatever the hell song you want. The reality is, everyone wants to get monetized and make money off YouTube. I make $250 a month off of YouTube. I've been posting for 3.5 years. It doesn't pay well. I do this with my big movies. If there's a song that really resonates with you and you think would add to the movie, I think the value that using the song that you really like and adding that personal touch to it is so much more valuable than having a non-copywritten song in your video. The reality is you're probably not going to make that much money. The most money I've ever made off of a YouTube video, full disclosure, was my video from Burning Man, which was a combined 1 million views in about a week. And that was super topical content that every advertiser wanted their ad in front of because everyone was watching it. And I made like $3,500 off of those 2 videos. But after that, I was back to making $250 a month. So if your video does go crazy for some reason, you probably missed out on a couple $1,000s. But again, I don't think it's worth it. I think having an impact on somebody and making a cool video that is personally yours is more valuable than having that. It's not, using copywritten music isn't going to block who sees your video either. Final step, sit down and watch it at regular speed, and anywhere you get bored or you want to fast forward, figure out how to cut that out. Then render it, make a thumbnail for it that captures your audience. Don't make some sort of clickbait title that lies. Tell people what you're doing. You want to build trust with your audience. You want them to know, even if it's not that exciting, that what you said you're going to do is what you're going to do, and you're good to go. Okay, so while I'm gliding down to land here, let's break it down. You're feeling compelled to make your video because you had an experience that was so impactful to you, you want to share it with the world. No one cares about the footage without a story. They want to know why that moment was special to you, and your job as a creator is to share why that was special effectively with your audience. You're gonna have a beginning, middle, and an end. Even better is if you have a problem, a conflict, and a resolution, and you have like a hero's journey of, I want to go over here and I was really scared to fly over this mountain, but then I flew over the mountain and it wasn't as bad as I thought. You're gonna film on a tripod. You're gonna film in the air with the sun in your face. You're gonna show yourself. You're gonna make yourself as personable as possible. You're not gonna wear goggles. You're not gonna cover your whole face. You're gonna use a selfie stick so people can see you and see the experience you're having as a person, not just your feet and some footage of ground moving past you at 20 miles an hour. You're gonna have good audio. You're gonna know that good audio on the ground and in the air is more valuable than good footage. You're gonna want to keep this in the 8 to 15 minute range. After that, people start to get bored unless it's like a really long multi-day event. You're gonna keep your footage organized. You're gonna cut out all the fluff, fly well within your means. You might, as a consequence of making your video, inspire somebody to fly if you make it seem fun and exciting, but not terrifying and challenging and hard. Anyway, those are my tips for how to make a better paramotor YouTube video. Tell a story. I want to see it. Send me a message and shoot me your video. I'd love to see it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the ground.